Welcome to Making Maverick Moves, the podcast where we talk to trailblazers who aren't afraid to break the rules, rewrite the script, and lead with courage. Today's guest is Suzy Crawford, a marketing powerhouse who left a successful 8-year career at Google to launch her own company, Crawford Marketing. Her maverick move? Trading corporate stability for the uncertainty of entrepreneurship and building a brand that's as bold as her decision. We're going to talk about that leap of faith, the power of branding, and how knowing your personal brand can fuel your biggest, bravest moves, especially as a leader. My name is Gina L. Osborne, and I'm an Army veteran. I spent 6 years during the end of the Cold War as a counterintelligence agent. I was appointed as an FBI agent, and during my 22-year career, worked everything from Asian organized crime to terrorism. I became the assistant special agent in charge of cyber and computer forensics. And then I came out of retirement and spent 2 years as the safety and security officer at LA Metro. Now I'm here to help you make your maverick move. Welcome to the show, Suzy.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. You know, when we talk about marketing and we talk about brand, I think it's so important to have people understand that everybody has a brand. And, you know, they may think that, well, wait a minute, I'm not a business, I'm not a influencer. But if you look at somebody's social media, that's kind of what their brand is, right? What they're putting out each and every day. Isn't that what a brand is?
Yeah, 100%. I think you really nailed it by saying I'm not an influencer. I mean, if you were to go back like 10 years, you'd be like, oh, building a personal brand on social, like I am not an influencer. I'm not going to be like dancing to Reels and TikToks, but that's not what it is anymore. I mean, it's 2025. Like you should have started building a personal brand by in 2024. And if you haven't, then you start now because it's literally becoming your currency. I honestly think of like, you know, when my kids, when they're going to be applying to stuff, like I actually feel like their personal presence, their personal brand, like that is their digital currency. That's what they're going to be known for. So it's like way more critical now than before to have that.
Yes, and people do that for the plus side, but when you look at the negative side, when you look at your brand, because a lot of people, I'm going to look at my social media and see anything that looks familiar, right? Yeah. But when people come to me and say they want to be FBI agents, you know, the first thing I do is like, I'm happy to mentor you, and I look at their social media. Is that the type of brand that the FBI would be proud of? Are they, you know, very, very studious and smart, or are they boozing it up with their friends? And I can't tell you how many times a social media past comes back and haunts people when they're trying to find their jobs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely a dark side to it. And that's why it's so important to have like your own control over what your image looks like on the internet.
Right.
Because if your image is literally like you doing, you know, keg stands in college, then it's not a good personal brand. It's not a good look for you. The FBI is not going to want you.
Right.
So you having control over it and saying like, this is who I am, this is what I represent, this is what I stand for, that's your personal brand.
Right. So what do people have to do? What's the first step? I mean, what do they have to be mindful of?
Well, I mean, I think it depends, right? Like for me, for example, I personally have 2 social accounts. Like I have my like personal one, that's my family, my kids, and then I have my business one. My business one is like my largest one. It has the biggest following, and that's really my personal brand online. And when it comes to like how do you start? What type of content are you putting out there? Honestly, it matters less what you want to put out there and more what does your audience want? So if it's a business, for example, so mine is very marketing focused, very focused on like, you know, women building businesses. I'm putting content out there that's inspirational to them. So my personal brand is really built around like Suzy, ex-Googler, built a marketing agency, and now she's helping women do the same because that's the kind of content they want to see versus like, what do I actually want to put out there?
Right. And that's such a great point because you see these campaigns, these marketing campaigns that fail because they're putting things out that they want to put out versus what their audience wants.
Yeah, literally, like, it does not matter what you want.
Right.
Like, maybe I want to put, like, avocado toast out there, but my audience does not care about that. So they're not going to engage with it.
Right. But how do people know?
You have to know your audience. I mean, it depends the type of brand you're building. But if you're building a business and you want a personal brand around it, that you need to know your audience like better than they know themselves. They need to be like your digital best friends. You have to literally know like how they speak, what keeps them up at night, what's stressing them out, what's like making them super happy, because that's what your content's going to be about. You have to be their best friend.
Right. And how important is trust in that branding?
Huge, especially now. And I think there's a really significant negative correlation between just like time and trust. Like the more time goes on, like the less people are becoming trusting, especially now with AI, right? Like you have these AI personal brands that are coming out, and months later, people are like, oh, that's AI. I've been following this influencer who I thought was a real human, and I was buying, the links that they were posting, and that's actually an AI avatar. So trust is really going down. So the more that you can engage with your audience, like interact with them, like actually talk to them, voice note them, trust is going to go up.
That's interesting. So that's what you tell your clients
I
to
do.
really, really engage with your audience to get them to come back for more.
Yeah, I do. And, so I have two businesses, right? Like my marketing agency, and then I have my coaching business where I coach marketing agencies. For that business, like I'm telling them, don't build a brand on social that's just your agency. Like build one around you, because people want to buy from people. They don't want to buy from brands. They want to buy from humans. So if you're engaging with your audience, you're like talking to them in the DMs, voice noting them, they're more likely to want to buy from you.
Wow. So you must be really good at your job, because you were happy at Google and you were there for 8 years and you were established there.
Yeah.
And yet you decided that you were going to make a maverick move and you were going to go out on your own. So can you talk about the decision that came up, how you decided to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it was scary. I'm not going to lie and be like, oh, it was the easiest thing in the world. Like, it was scary. I had a great job. But my entire life, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to own my own business. And I was that kid that would go to school, like elementary school, and just have like a bag of bracelets and be like, who wants to buy this $1 bracelet? So I was always trying to come up with like, what's the next business? And I remember actually when I was applying to business school, I was at the time advising a startup, and they asked me to be on like the executive team. And I remember thinking, well, if I don't get into a good business school, I'm just going to do this. And I did. I got into UCLA, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to UCLA. Actually, no. I said to my husband, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to take it because I really want to work with this startup. What am I going to do? And he's like, well, just give it a second. You don't have to accept it right now. And literally that night or the next day, I got a letter in the mail that was like, you got a full ride to UCLA Anderson. And they don't give out just like full rides, right? And I was like, why? I didn't apply for one. So that was like my sign that I was going to go to business school. And then when I was there, the first month in, I got my internship at Google. I was like, all of these signs are happening, so I'm going to take this. Because originally I was not going to go like the corporate path. I really wanted to start my own business. So it was always like kind of nudging at me. So then I was there for 8 years. I started in gaming, marketing, and then media entertainment. So working with like film studios and TV studios. And while I was there, had 3 kids. And it kind of just dawned on me that I was like, well, I've had my kids. I used, Google's amazing maternity leave, but am I ever going to actually like do what I want to do? Am I ever going to live my dream? And it's a really hard decision because I had a great salary. I had amazing benefits, and it was a great job. Like it was a job that 0.2% of people that apply even like get to the second round. So I really struggled with the decision for a long time, but ultimately I was like, there's never going to be a right time. As a person, especially as a mom, like there's just never the right time. And you're always kind of, telling yourself, well, I'm going to wait until the kids are older. I'm going to wait until it's summer, or I'm going to wait till it's after summer. All these things. There's always an I'm going to wait moment. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, like really, there's just time. And so it's your decision to make a move now or make it later. And there's always going to be an excuse for later.
I agree. Well, here we talk about breakthrough success. And that's when you come up to this wall and you may be afraid, you may be confused, you may be intimidated, and yet you go through anyway. So tell me about that moment where you said, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. I mean, so it was, I had my third child, and I was on my maternity leave. And I'm really about signs. Like, I don't know why. Like I was mentioning earlier, and I was like, I'm really struggling with the decision. Like, I want to start my own thing. I'd already been freelancing on the side. And I was like, I'm going to wait for a sign. And like the next day or a week later, they had done a really big reorg at the company, and they'd like moved everyone. And they moved me to a department, and they like positioned it like it was a promotion, but I was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, this is my sign. This is like, I'm going to just do it. And so I did. I said, I'm not coming back. And, and that was my moment where I was like, I'm just going to go for it.
Did you ever feel after you made that decision, maybe I should go back?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, you're leaving security, you're leaving an amazing salary, you're leaving benefits, but I had to trust in myself. And I knew I could do it. I mean, I knew I could. If I could do it while working a 9-to-5 on the side and just like freelancing, I could do it while doing it full time.
Yeah, that's what my mom says. All you have to do is believe.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how all these doors open when you just believe that 100%. You can do it.
And if like, I always tell myself and, students and stuff, like, do you see other people doing this? Yeah, of course you do. So there's literally nothing written in the sky that's like, Suzy Crawford cannot do this. She will not have a 7-figure business. She will not be successful. If they can do it, you can, and that is your sign.
Wow. So tell us about your early successes.
Let's see. So while I was working my 9-to-5, I was freelancing. So I was just doing, like a lot of consulting, marketing consulting. And my first bigger client, I reached out to just like cold email, and I saw that they were looking to do a full-time hire for somebody to help them with pitching. Basically, they were a consulting firm that helps startups raise money. And so they needed a fractional CMO to come into their businesses and help them raise funds. And I was like, oh, I know I can do this. I don't have experience, but I can do this. And I think that was probably like my first like breakthrough, where it was a really big client. It paid well. And I was able to kind of get a lot of case studies from it and say, like, I've helped startups raise over $100 million. I've done XYZ. I did that early on and leveraged that to get a lot more clients.
That's great. So that's essentially branding yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, that was branding myself. At the time, I will say I had zero social media presence because I had just quit. I honestly was terrified of what people would say. I didn't tell my family that I left Google for like 6 months. I know. Isn't that crazy? Because I'm Colombian. I'm a daughter of immigrants, and I was just very afraid that my dad would be like, what are you doing? You had like the American dream and you left it. But they were supportive.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great. So you work a lot with women, and you have a program, right?
I do. Freelancer to CEO. Yeah.
Okay. What's that like?
So Freelancer to CEO, it's a coaching program. I work with freelancers, marketing agency owners, and it's primarily women. It's like, there's like a few men in there. And we obviously take men, but it really is primarily women. And it's basically, I'm teaching them to do what I did, to go from freelancer to successful CEO, successful business owner. And what I learned when I started freelancing was a lot of the stuff that I learned at Google, a lot of the connections I made, the marketing strategies that I had access to, most people don't. And so becoming a really, really good marketer, it isn't very hard, but I do think that there's a lack of knowledge that a lot of people just don't have. And so I initially created it just to teach people, or to teach these women, like, I'm going to give you access to all of the things that I learned at Google, to these amazing strategies, to how do you go from like 0 to 9 figures and helping build a brand. I'm going to teach you this. And that was like the initial kind of pitch to bring people in. And now it's everything from learn marketing to learn how to sell, learn how to get clients, learn how to build a business. And we have right now we have over 100 active members, and over the last 2 or so years, we've definitely, I think, like maybe 300 have gone through.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
So what do you teach from a leadership perspective? Because I think when you go on LinkedIn or you look on social media, everyone wants to be a thought leader of some sort. So how do you market yourself in that way?
How do you market yourself as a thought leader? I mean, I really think that just goes back to personal branding. So The mistake that a lot of people make when wanting to build a personal brand or wanting to, become thought leaders is they just sound like everyone else. They're essentially a commodity, right? Like if you're just putting content out there that sounds basic, that's a copy and paste of somebody's other piece of content, then you're going to be forgotten. You're going to be scrolled past and no one's going to care. So you're not really a thought leader. You're just a copy and paste. So being different, even if it's the same message said differently, is really powerful. And I do think a lot of people think, well, if I want to be a thought leader, I have to sound super professional. I have to sound like this wildly polished person. But, it's not like I have 10 million followers or anything. But I think what has built trust for me amongst my audience is that I don't sound like that. I sound very real. I sound very raw. And I'm just going to give it to you how it is, And that's actually way more appreciated now than I think people think.
Well, when we rebranded this podcast, it used to be called Lead Like a Lady, and then we changed it to Making Maverick Moves. It was a big undertaking because really it made me reflect a lot on who I am, what do I want to give, and how do I want to serve my wonderful audience who come to me for certain things.
Yeah.
So I know what I had to do in order to start that. What recommendation do you have for people who really need to do that reflection to find out what their brand is? Because I can tell you, once you lock it in, you know where you're going from there.
That's a great question. So just to make sure I understand, what's the best way to rebrand?
Well, what's the best way to just for people to trust you, and for when you're putting things out, it's coming from you and it's not coming from ChatGPT, or if it's not coming from a quote that somebody else said?
Yeah. Not sounding super polished. I mean, I know that probably goes against the grain and goes against what everybody is told to do. But I really think that's what's working now, is just sounding like a human and not a robot. And people are smarter. Everyone's using ChatGPT. And if you're not, then, you got to get on it. But people know if your post is straight up just from ChatGPT. They're like, well, there's 10 rocket emojis. That'll do it. It's so obvious now, So, you should use it 100%. I use it every day. But you should use it as a guide and not as your end state. And everything you put out there needs to sound and feel like you. It should actually feel like people are like, wow, I am connecting with her. I can really feel this. ChatGPT is not going to do that.
Right. And I think there has to be some form of vulnerability there.
Totally.
Because nobody is going to follow somebody who's showing no vulnerability whatsoever, because you really need to have that connection. And I think that's what the vulnerability. And I can tell you, in my career, where male-dominated fields, everything that I've done, I never wanted to show that vulnerability. But I think the older I get and the more experienced I get, the more I want to share that with people, because that is me showing who I am.
100%. And people connect with vulnerability, right? If you can share something that has made you sad, has been hard, has made you question everything, the moment people can be like, oh, I've been there. I get it. She gets me. That's when you're connecting.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So tell me about a brand, and I'm going to put you on the hot seat here.
Okay.
That was going down the wrong road, and then they restructured and then went in a whole different direction, and they found success. Do you have any ideas on that?
On a brand that I've worked with,
anything.
A brand in general?
Anything that you can share.
So I'm going to do two, because this is not necessarily your question, but I think it's really relevant. So I did a post. It's on my social and it's pinned. So Party City, obviously, we no longer have. It went through a horrible, bankruptcy. But I did an entire post about how they should have rebranded, and you should look at it, because I do think that's a really good example of a brand that had so much opportunity. It had there's so much nostalgia to the name, and they just never shifted. They never shifted to like what people actually care about nowadays. They stayed looking like a warehouse, looking like Walmart, where people now like they look at Pinterest boards. They have like TikToks that show like beautiful partyscapes and table themes. And Party City had such an opportunity to rebrand and do that. And so I feel like that's one that could have done that. They could have so easily like made that shift.
How?
Well, that's the post.
If you were the queen of Party City,
Yeah.
as this marketing guru that you are, how would you have changed that?
I would have literally rebranded the entire inside of the store. So instead of having, because the way it was structured was you walk in and it's like an aisle of balloons, an aisle of da-da-da. But instead, if you walked in and you were like, oh, this party's like jungle theme. And this aisle is like jungle theme party. This aisle is like, I don't know, disco party. Can you tell I don't go to a lot of parties?
Yeah. Princess parties.
Yeah.
Those are big.
And so you go and you like walk in and then you have a QR code and you can scan it and it immediately puts everything, it notifies the front desk people to go get all that stuff for you. Like actually letting people immerse into an experience is really powerful. And that's why, what are those things called? Like pop-ups are so big, right? Because people love experiences. People love to feel something. And so what better place to evoke emotion than a party store? Like, what if you could actually have an aisle where it's like glitter on the floor and like blurry pictures? Like that evokes an emotion, you know? And they didn't do that. They never adapted.
Yeah. And maybe
Just
even
sad.
the DIY stuff.
100%.
Right? Yeah. You could show how you can put candy in these beautiful, jars.
Yeah.
And then, use the beautiful ribbon that they're selling and all of that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I mean like a Home Depot. Actually, this is a great example. Home Depot, we know Home Depot as a hardware store, right? Like you go and it's like, I need a piece of wood. I'm going to go to Home Depot. I don't know. But they also, it was a few years ago, I don't know how long ago, but they have these things we were talking about. They have these things where the first Saturday or Sunday of the month, you can bring your kids and your kids like build, I don't know, a birdhouse or something. And so it's now like, it's not just, hey, I'm going to buy a piece of wood. There's like arts and crafts, right? And so there's that like shift of how do we bring families to a store and expose them to building and like using tools at an early age. That's a really good example. It's not a major rebrand. It's a slight one. And but it's a great way of showing, hey, I see what my audience is doing. And right now we're just getting people that, are construction workers. How do we bring families here? And that's a perfect example. They saw what these families wanted to do. They saw that moms wanted to not have their kids on iPads at 9 a.m. on Saturday and actually be doing things with their hands and getting that experience. And so they introduced that.
Right. So it's pretty much instead of sending the husbands or the boyfriends to Home Depot, the whole family is going to Home Depot.
The whole family's going. Or, maybe it's a great way for the dad to have that one-on-one time with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that part. So you talked a little bit about AI. Do you think AI is going to be taking over marketing someday?
I think it already has.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like you can run from it or you can embrace it. And I think the marketers that run from it, the ones that are like, it's taking over my job, well, you're already behind. Like you're already lost because you're in the wrong mindset, right? But if instead you can say like, well, what can I do now to leverage AI to make my job better, to be better, to get ahead? Those are the ones that are going to win. Okay.
So I just started a business. And if, for example, on Shark Tank. Okay.
Love it.
So imagine Shark Tank because you have these great products that people are just coming to, market with. So where do you start in order to start building that business because you have this wonderful, amazing item that you want to sell? Where do you even start from the marketing standpoint to get those viral moments like the Scrub Daddy that everybody has, a Scrub Daddy because of Shark Tank? So, I would imagine going on to Shark Tank is a great marketing idea. But if you're just a business starting out, where do you start picking up your following?
The first thing is it doesn't matter where you want to go. It matters where your audience is. So if I were Scrub Daddy today, I wouldn't be going on Shark Tank. I would literally be going on social media and doing TikToks and shorts and creating viral content that's short form. Because who's using it? Parents, moms, like I would be all over that. Yeah.
So just starting and just putting out there. And the importance, we know that when it comes to selling is you just have to be consistent. So you can't just put a couple of posts out there.
Yeah.
You need to be doing it all the time to get that momentum going.
To get the momentum, to get the algorithm to like you, but more importantly, to build trust.
Right.
If you are, if you go to a piece of content and you're like, oh, this is cool, and then you go to their page and they have 2 posts, you're like, this is a scam. Yeah, that's not going to build trust. So putting more content out there is important for so many reasons, but it's really important for trust.
Are there other ways to get people's attention besides social media?
Yeah, well, I think obviously, your own social is important, but user-generated content, so not influencers necessarily, but just other people using your products is so powerful. That builds a ton of trust. It makes it feel very real. It doesn't feel like it's a brand selling to you, but it feels like it's your neighbor, your friend, the person you're going to book club with. Like they're the ones that are showing you the product. And I honestly, I'm a really big, this isn't scalable, but I am a really big believer in in-person things. So look at where your audience is hanging out. Is it farmers markets? Is it go to those things? But then how do you leverage these in-person moments and make them scalable? It's social. Right. So if you are going to, I don't know why I keep saying farmers markets, but it's top of mind, like a farmers market and you have your scrub daddy, creating content there and then posting it is a really, really, it's really powerful.
Got it. So going back to the personal brand that we talked to in the beginning, so what happens if you had those boozing moments and those pictures are already out there? Because once the pictures are out on the internet, they're there to stay. How do you clean up your personal brand, once you decide that, okay, maybe this wasn't the best face for me to put out there? How do you clean that up? Do you know?
I don't know, but I would say, do everything you can to just push it down. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think, obviously whatever you have control over, you can hide.
Right.
If it's somebody else, I know there's services that offer that. I don't know though.
But yeah, I think it's really important, especially if you're a parent, to talk to your kids to make sure that they're aware of what they're putting out. Because not only could it put them in danger if they're wearing their high school colors and names and things like that, people will know where they go to high school and all of that. But again, just being super vigilant when it comes to whatever it is that you post, because I can tell you that was the first thing, having the cyber team with the FBI, whenever we would get the new batch of agents coming in from Quantico, we would be able to have our pick as to which ones that we wanted. And the first thing that my team would do is look at that social media and see, do we want this person on our team or not?
Gosh, that's terrifying.
It really is. But it's the truth. If you want to go into law enforcement, but really, it's so true, because I think HR, that is the line that the chief people office is doing, is they want to make sure that anybody that they have working for them, they're not going to be a liability.
Yeah. I'm just honestly really glad that social media was not a thing when I was in high school.
For sure, because we do make mistakes. And I think, people know that sometimes we make mistakes, but, moving forward, we just have to be really, really, really important to
for sure
do that. So let's talk about, as we wrap this up, let's talk about marketing myths.
Okay.
So if I'm a company, why am I going to invest valuable dollars in a marketing program?
Because you want to make money. There's literally no business out there that doesn't need marketing. Every business does. I don't care if you are the taco cart on the street corner or you're, Apple TV. Everybody needs marketing. It's going to be a different form of marketing, right? The taco cart on the street corner is not going to invest in TV commercials and a Super Bowl commercial. But every business needs marketing, and the ones that think that they don't are, one, they're either going to fail, or they are doing it, they're just masking it as something else. And they're thinking it's something else, and it's just sales. But actually, it's marketing.
Well, when you talk about the Super Bowl, think about the most memorable Super Bowl commercials out there. And what do? They tug at our heartstrings. Think about Budweiser, the horses, the dog, the story behind the whole thing. Everybody is so invested in those commercials. They can't wait for them to come out. So where's the marketing genius of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly right. And I think that, a lot of people are just well, you just need a ton of money to, to do marketing right. You have to be spending millions, all these things. You really don't. You just have to find where your audience is at and speak to them in a way that's going to connect with them.
So it's just another tool in your toolbox to make your company successful.
But I would say it's like a top tool. Like it is the tool.
Because you're the marketing people are the ones who are getting the word out, getting the brand out, getting the name out.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Suzy, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been super helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Happy to be here.